What is the Hades moon? What is up, Alien Army? I am Oculus, the alien next door, purveyor of esoteric lore. And on this channel, we discuss everything out of this world. So today's topic, we are going to be talking a little bit about astrology into the Hades moon. So what is this exactly? This is something that I originally saw it on Reddit, and then I was like, what is that? And I started doing my own little investigation, but we're just going to talk about a little quick snippet. We're going to talk about my views and what is conveyed to me in regards to that aspect. So as always, I always say, utilize your own intuition. Whatever resonates with you, continue doing that, continue doing it if it works for you. These are my viewpoints as what is conveyed to me, channeling astrology. So the Hades moon is actually a book that is written by Judy Hall, and this is a term that, from what I gather, she coined. So she was like, Hades moon, that's what it is. She wrote her book, and this is what it's about. So the Hades moon, according to Judy Hall, is when someone's moon and their Pluto in their natal chart is in aspect to each other. So it would be someone that has a moon in the 8th house, Pluto in the 4th house, or moon in aspect to Pluto in one's natal chart, or moon in Scorpio. So this, as you can see, has like a similar genre going on, because we have moon, which is governor of Cancer. We have Pluto, which is governor of Scorpio. So these two are somehow linked in the chart, but it's more coming from a Plutonian vibe influencing the moon. So if the moon is in the 8th house, which is the natural house of Pluto and Scorpio, that would count. Or if someone has Pluto in the natural house of Cancer, because Cancer governs the moon and governs house 4, so if Pluto is in house 4, that would count. An aspect between the moon and Pluto in your natal chart, and also if your moon is in Scorpio. So we're not talking about saying if someone has moon in Cancer. No, it can be moon in Cancer if it's in aspect to Pluto. So this is more going to be governance of Scorpio Plutonian energy. That is the Hades moon, which is why Hades is, I believe, a god of hell, and you know how that whole fucking reputation of Scorpio in the 8th house and Pluto in the underworld, all of that type of stuff. So it's going to be coming from that influence. It's going to be that type of influence over the moon. It is not going to be the moon influencing Pluto. Okay, I just wanted to get that out of the way. It's going to be more focused on Pluto type energy. So if someone has moon in Aries, but their moon is conjunction Pluto, for example, that would count as a Hades moon, because Pluto is touching the moon. The moon doesn't have to be in Scorpio. It doesn't have to be in Cancer. So it could be in any sign as long as it's in aspect to Pluto or the other placements I mentioned. Yeah, that is the way that I understood it. So I didn't dive deep into it like that, just because I like my videos to be organic. I just like to have a little brief idea of what I'm talking about, and then I channel the rest of it. So from what I got with this, I was seeing it more of like, this is sort of like Judy Hall's thing, where maybe she has this aspect, maybe someone important to her has this aspect, or she's dealt a lot with this aspect. Like, that's her thing, right? Okay, that's where, you know, she wrote a book about it. Like, that's great, okay? But it's really, from what I got, just Pluto's influence over the moon, which a lot of people can have that placement. If you want to call it Hades moon or not, that's totally up to you. I feel that Hades moon just kind of gives it like, ooh, like, you know, a kind of like that type of vibe, you know what I mean? Like look at me type of shit, which that's great. I mean, if you want to write a book and call it Hades moon, hell yeah.
You go ahead, girl. Okay, you do that.
So for me, I would say if I were to write a book, it'd be somewhere about Uranus, because that's what I feel most in my chart. So it doesn't matter. It's like, if you feel like you have Mars a lot influence in your chart, maybe you'll write a book about Mars, right? Just because that's what you feel. But
that's what you feel. We're talking about the moon. Oh, snap.
So from what I got, it's really really, it's not, because I want to know like what exactly it was. Was it like a different type of aspect, a different degree, a different angle, whatever? But from what I got, it's really just Pluto's influence over the moon. So I happen to have Hades moon, if you want to look at it that way. I have moon trine Pluto. Now, I've had read on several sources that it's really volatile if it's the square or if it's the conjunction or the opposition, just because the trines and the sextiles are sort of like, you know, they're harmonious, and this is the way that I felt that this is presented, Hades moon, is that it's more of like a malefic type of context, okay? So me, I do have Hades moon because I have moon in aspect to Pluto. I have moon trine Pluto, so I don't really notice this type of energy, just because maybe I have it in like a harmonious aspect. So I feel like if you have your moon in a square opposition, or you have, you know, a more substantial moon Pluto thing going on in your chart, I feel like someone like that might feel it more. Me, I just like, I'm like, okay, you know, my moon, they get along, my moon and Pluto, you know, I don't have no issue with it, so whatever. I mean, but from what I got, it's just Pluto's influence over the moon. Now, Pluto's influence over the moon, as conveyed to me, is for any, you know, call it Hades moon, don't call it anything, whatever it is, but this is lumping all of that together, okay? And then you obviously, you see what narrows it down for you. If you have the opposition, it's going to be totally different than if you have the square. It's going to be totally different if you have the conjunction. It's all going to function specifically to what's going on in your chart. Someone might have their moon in the 8th house, and the moon might be in Scorpio, and the moon might be conjunction Pluto. You know, they might have, so it's gonna, the intensity is gonna vary, okay? So generally, when Pluto influences the moon in astrology, it's gonna add a lot of depth. A lot of depth, okay? A lot of depth. Surface level shit don't do it for you, homie. That shit don't do it for you. Moon and Pluto, the way that Pluto is influencing the feelings, right? The internal emotions, it's gonna bring intensity. It's gonna bring emotional resilience. It's gonna bring a little bit of an edge to the way someone expresses their feelings, okay? Like what? Like you know, with that side-eye shit, you know what I mean? Like with Pluto's influence, it's gonna bring a lot of intensity. It's gonna bring a lot of drive. It's going to bring a lot of power, in the sense where you're gonna be driven by your emotions, and you might have no clue where it's coming from, because your emotions, no matter what sign your moon is in, if it's somehow influenced by Pluto, what's going to happen is that it's going to turn up the heat with whatever it is. So you, I would say anyone that has this Hades moon, like the influence of Pluto on their moon, they're going to be very, very deep, maybe into spirituality, maybe not, but they're going to be more of like a deep thinker probably than most anyone else around them, because Pluto, remember, he's the exorcist of the fucking natal chart, so he wants to, he want to do some shit, okay? He want to be digging around in the crypt and shit. I don't know what he doing. He came with a fucking shovel, he came with a fucking pitchfork, like he's like, we bowed it today, and then the moon is like, okay. So Pluto influencing the moon is gonna be really the driving force of the moon, no matter what sign or house it's in, because Pluto is a universal planet. He's generational, he's very, very slow moving, but he's transformative, he's very powerful. So someone that has Pluto's influence on their moon is likely to be someone that they experience very intense emotions, but their emotional state, their emotional nature tends to transform a lot throughout their lifetime. Now, depending on the way your chart is situated, you may or may not transform physically, right? But emotionally, you up in there, you like leveling, okay, with your emotion. You emotionally, I would say maybe 5 years ago, you're totally different than you are now. Like your emotions are constantly going deeper into self-exploration and exploration of the depths of circumstances or other people. Like it's like observing things that are beneath the surface, okay? That's someone's emotional nature, but it's going to keep changing. So this is someone who likely is very good at self-reflection, because Pluto, the influence hitting the moon, you got to see where that feeling is coming from. Like, let's dive deeper. Oh, you don't like what you see over here? Okay, we gonna go deeper now. And then it's like, whoa, like that's kind of the gist that I'm getting, okay? So it's gonna bring a lot of emotional intensity, a lot of emotional endurance. Like, this is not necessarily gonna be someone who's overly emotional. In fact, I might even say the opposite. I mean, it could depend obviously on how the moon is situated otherwise, but Pluto, he a secretive ass motherfucker. He's like, you ain't gonna know how I feel. Like, because the Plutonian influence over the moon, they want to figure shit out first, because Pluto, being a secretive ass motherfucker, very well guarded, very well versed in like psychological and emotional currents and things like that, is gonna want to get to the root of their own feelings before they even try to express it anywhere else, right? Like, they're just gonna go inside. It's like internal revolution, and they're gonna figure themselves out. So that's why it's like someone with that aspect, even though we have these two, like moon and Pluto, they're governing water signs, which you would think might be emotional. Pluto, even if the moon is in Cancer in aspect to Pluto in a water house, that Cancer moon is not going to come off the way a Cancer moon would if Pluto wasn't touching it. Do you see? It's like Pluto is not going to allow the emotions to really come out in a like word vomit type of way. And I'm not saying that it can't, but like deep emotions, the way whoever it is really feels, like that shit, woo, that shit gonna stay buried for a long ass motherfucking time.
Okay.
So that's what we have going on. So it would be the totally wrong idea to think that this is gonna add emotional outbursts or just sporadic crying or things like that, okay? Now, I'm not saying that it can't be volatile, but it's more like a built-up type of rage, and I would say only if these are squared. I would say maybe in opposition, but if they are squared, like if it's moon square Pluto, Hades moon, that is likely to have emotional outbursts, but over something that, how do I explain it? Okay, they might have an emotional outburst that makes them appear volatile, but they're gonna emotionally react to something surface level because they emotionally reacted to something deeper. So you're still not, this sounds really wild, okay, but whoosh, that's what we're doing, okay? They're gonna react emotionally, hard aspect square, in a volatile manner over something that seems like it's surface level, but really it's something that they have buried deep within them, but they don't want a motherfucker to know what that is. So they're gonna play it off like it's something surface level, but it's not gonna even be there. Like, this sounds really shady as fuck, but it's just, that's what it is. So let's say, I don't know, someone
can you pass me the ketchup?
You didn't say please, motherfucker.
Some shit like that, okay? So it's not about the ketchup, but whoever it is feigning that it's about, you didn't say please when you asked for me to pass you the ketchup, but you don't remember the thing that I noticed 5 years ago that I still didn't mention. Do you see? Like, that's the best analogy. Obviously, it's gonna vary on the situation, but even someone with this aspect, Hades moon, you're not gonna, I mean, unless you know, unless they choose for you to know them and you know, share whatever's going on in their feelings with you, you're not gonna know. You're gonna be like whoa, you got that mad over ketchup, damn bruh, I'm gonna stay away from you. But meanwhile, there's something much deeper that it's like the Hades moon individual had in their feelings, right? Because they were still processing it, analyzing it, holding some shit in regards to that, and then boom, can you pass the ketchup? You didn't say please, but oh, and they're in their psyche, they're like, yeah, but that shit from fucking 5 years ago, right? Like it's like that, okay? So obviously that was one example of like the emotional volatility. So this can be someone who comes off like they have a striking temper. It might seem superficial. I'm not saying it's going to be like that all the time, even if it's something deeper than ketchup. I listen, okay, they could be mad over ketchup, they could be mad over something else, but however depth it is, you best believe there's be something even deeper than that that triggered them into that rage, okay? There's always gonna be deeper to their emotions, and they're not gonna want to show it. They're not gonna want to convey how they're really feeling, so they might feign it. And I don't mean faking feelings like they're gonna pretend they're in love with you when they're not. No, I would say absolutely not. Hades moon ain't even gonna waste their time. Like,
why am I gonna pretend I'm in love with them?
Unless they're, you know, unless some other experience has happened to them, obviously, you know, and that anyone could do that. It's not just specific to that. But Hades moon, it's like they're not even going to bother getting emotionally invested in doing all that if they're not, like, they're just not, okay? It's like well, what are we doing? We want to go deep. We don't want to go cheap. You know what I mean? So there's that. So positive qualities of this aspect is obviously the emotional strength, the emotional endurance, no matter how it's aspected, square, opposition, whatever house. You know, Pluto's influence over the moon is going to bring emotional strength, and this might be a motherfucker that you could see them and you're like, how did you even go through that? Like, they're the motherfucker that like went through hell and came out looking better. You're like,
where you been, motherfucker? You look good.
Hell, like,
oh, okay.
You know, like something like that going on, okay? Like that's how you're gonna probably notice them. They're also gonna be someone who they're gonna seem like they know more than they are letting on, okay? So it's like you're gonna notice the emotional strength, but this is also someone who it's like, you know that you're not even scratching the surface in a conversation with them, and it's sort of like that leaving you hanging type of vibe, because the way that the moon and Pluto are interacting with the emotions is that you might not know what they're feeling, but you're gonna know that they're feeling something, but you don't know what it is. You can't place your finger on it, but you can like feel the energy, like you could feel the heat. I don't know if that makes sense, right? So anyone that has like a Hades moon type of aspect, especially if it's like a really potent aspect, the emotional intensity, just the way that they come off, it's gonna be like they're observing a motherfucker, they're not saying shit, and you're like, well, what do you think? Like, and they're like, what do you think? And you're just sitting there like, but I asked you. I asked you too. It's like a weird type of thing. It's like riddle type of shit. And so with the Hades moon, I'm just seeing it however you want to call it. You don't have to call it Hades moon. It's just really Pluto's influence over the moon. So we want to look at these positive qualities, negative qualities. Obviously, it also depends on where the person is at in their journey. Everyone is different. So someone earlier along in their journey, no matter what type of aspect they have with that Hades moon, is that they are likely to just be more emotionally volatile than as if they had progressed and, you know, they got to know themselves, right? That's the basic gist of it, is that she wrote this book, coined the term Hades moon, and it's in aspect to Pluto. So we want to look at Pluto, how Pluto, the characteristics of Pluto are driving that particular placement, what house placement, whatever aspect it's in. We're going to just recognize Pluto in this equation as the driving force. So all of the other things that are going on are going to be taken by his influence, like Pluto's influence, okay? Like Pluto's like pushing it, Pluto's driving it. Pluto is the fuel that's fueling whatever aspect or house placement or moon sign. It's just, it's driven by Pluto, powered by Pluto. I don't know, like it's like the moon is the fucking vehicle of the feeling, and then Pluto is the fucking gasoline, okay? So that's what I got for you today. I am Oculus, the alien next door. We will chit chat again soon.